Um, okay, hello. Um, Here we are. Welcome. This is Greg Mona, aka Master Moo, and we are continuing with our ongoing series of musical discussions, musical philosophical discussions, entitled Music is a Revelation. And for those of you who are new, we're using this as it's actually a quote from Ludwig van Beethoven, the German composer. He said, "Music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy." So Beethoven's going there, and he's making a bold statement that can piss a lot of people off. It certainly may piss off the wisdom and philosophy community. That may piss off religious teachers and philosophy teachers, and it may piss off just most people who want music to be a comfortable background thing, and don't want it to be more than just something that we can multitask to while shopping, a background soundtrack to shopping or dating or dancing or what have you. So, what does Beethoven mean when he says music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy? That's our overarching theme, and I've written a song about it entitled Music is a Revelation, which you can check out on my YouTube channel. And right now in the background, this is another one of my compositions. This is one of the snippet of one of my 100 symphonies in 10 parts, in 3 movements, but 10 parts meaning 10 different sounds that interact at different rhythmic levels. And which is accompanied by an oscilloscope representation of the sound to help you focus on it. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about my teacher, David del Tredici, because I went to a concert last night at the Italian Academy, Columbia University. Here's the program. And good friend of mine, Mark Pelican, excellent, wonderful pianist. He played, and he performed different pieces. One of which was the theme of the concert was the bel canto piano. There it is. Okay. So the idea was bel canto, beautiful singing, but using the piano instead of the voice. So they were instrumental piano pieces which he played, which were inspired by or connected to vocal music and art songs or opera. And it was a nice program, beautifully presented. He's a wonderful pianist. Mark Pelican, Peloquin. He teaches at the New School, and he's just great. And he has had a long-term collaboration with my former teacher, David del Tredici, who passed away last year, and actually more than a year now. He died November 18th, 2023. A great teacher, a great pianist, and I studied with him at City College, and he supervised my Masters of Music and Composition. And so it's kind of a double commemoration. It was the beautiful piece that Mark played, which was called Ode to Music, which David wrote in 2015. And before I explain that, I just want to give a little bit of biographical background on the great David del Tredici, truly one of the greatest American composers of all time, an inspiration to me and to my whole generation. And Deltredici. And tomorrow, well, no, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, Sunday will be his birthday. Today is March 14th. He was born March 16th, 1937. And he died November 18th of 2023. And, just from his basic biographical stuff, I'm not going to read his whole bio, but he won the Pulitzer Prize for music and was a Guggenheim Fellow and a father of neo-romantic music. Born in California, educated, was a great piano virtuoso. He had a great career as a pianist and switched his focus to composition and had great teachers and was a great teacher and was mentored by possibly the most famous and greatest American composer, Aaron Copland, and taught in many schools, and most famous for his fantasy symphonies with voice inspired by the Lewis Carroll stories, the Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, for which he wrote many song cycles and orchestral songs, symphonic songs, and there's many great recordings. I suggest you go on YouTube and listen to the beautiful recording of Final Alice with Barbara Hendricks, the soprano, and the Chicago Symphony Orchestra under Sir Georg Solti. Also Philadelphia Orchestra, Eugene Ormandy. Great. And so he had a long, productive life, and he was a great teacher. He had great mentors. He was a great mentor. And I want to talk about the importance of mentorship and the importance of establishing a type of personal lineage, even if your own mature style has nothing to do with it. For example, one of his major mentors was Aaron Copland, who was famous for his Americana style of the 1930s, although he wrote in many other styles, both before and after that, through his whole career. David respected and admired and loved him, but when David found his own distinctive compositional voice, it was very, very different from that of his teachers. And that made him a controversial figure, and many people really were, thought he was a traitor, that he had betrayed sort of the modernist legacy that he grew up in and that he began his early pieces composing in. But he had to follow the sounds that he was hearing inside of himself, and so do all composers. So you respect your teachers, you love your teachers, you follow, and you work very hard to follow their advice, but ultimately you have to find your own voice. My style now is not his style. My style is not, although I did start very much in his style, I no longer compose in that sort of neo-romantic style. I would characterize my current style as kind of a neo-modernist. I sort of evolved out of post-minimalism into a kind of a neo-modernist or a neo-futurist sort of sound. An example of which is what you hear in the background. Although my other pieces use completely conventional major and minor scales and major and minor chords and so on, and some are in just temperament, some are in equal temperament, and then pieces like this do not follow any temperament system at all, but have their own internally generated specified tuning, So what you're hearing right now is not is not tempered. These are not. These are. This is tuning. Yeah. And in fact, I'll talk about the difference between temperament and tuning some other time. But when I use 5 limit, that's really a tuning, because I only use pure intervals based upon that are directly from the overtone series. I never abstract them from the overtone series, whereas temperament will abstract intervals from a fundamental, which I don't do that. I always relate pitches and rhythms to one fundamental frequency, which sometimes is in the audible range, sometimes above 20 hertz, and sometimes below the audible range, sometimes below 20 hertz, in which in that case, you have to intuit the fundamental based upon the higher relationships. But I'm not talking about my technique right now. I'm talking about my teacher and his lineage, his teachers, and his influences, and the importance of tradition, influence, lineage, and devotion, discipline to following your teacher's instructions on faith. Yeah. And so I encourage everyone listening to go onto YouTube and listen to as many pieces as you can by the great David Del Tredici. Listen to as many performances as you can by the wonderful pianist Mark Pelican, who has performed all of David's solo piano music, and also the music that he's written for piano and other combinations, such as his chamber music, the fantastic piano trio, the fantastic piano quintet, and piano four hands. Wonderful, wonderful treasure body of contemporary music, and which is primarily what David focused on in the later phase of his career. He became famous writing gorgeous, magnificent orchestral music, and this is what attracted the interest of great conductors like Sergei Schulte in Chicago, or the Eugene Ormandy in Philadelphia. But as he got older, he focused more and more on solo piano and chamber music groups and clearer textures, and he became also more interested in counterpoint, and that's extremely important. Since we were using Beethoven quotes as a kind of a guideline, again, our overall quote for our whole thing is music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy. Another quote from Beethoven, more related to musical discipline and practice, he says, this is a quote from Beethoven, "Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets, for it and knowledge can raise men to the divine." Let me repeat that, what Beethoven says. Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secrets, for it and knowledge can raise men to the divine. So what does that mean for a composer to practice her or his art? We know what it is in order for a singer to practice her or his art, she has to sing every day and practice scales. Likewise, a pianist must practice scales and speed and agility and octaves and so on. Other types, if you're, for example, working as a coach or a conductor, you have to practice sight reading, score reading, like sitting down and being able to realize things at the keyboard, being able to accurately hear the printed score. So, and then, for all musicians, there's sort of the basic foundation of solfege and all ear training and all of that. But specifically for composers, what do composers have to practice in order to be able to raise to the divine, to hear the sounds that are inside of you? And all of my teachers, including David and all of the teachers I've had before, who I love and cherish and who I wish to honor in my own life, insisted on the importance of counterpoint. And I practice counterpoint every day. Every day I sit down and write one line and then another line against it so that the intervals are pleasing and independent and the rhythms are pleasing and independent, and so they interact with each other with suppleness and subtlety and towards the individual sense of climax in each line. And I think it is my pedagogical belief that this is actually the necessary daily discipline for all composers. I think if you're going to write music which aspires to be more than background music, more than just something for someone to space out to or to text to or daydream to, I really think you must do a daily practice of counterpoint that will keep your technique from getting rusty. Now, the piece which Mark Pelican played last night, which I want to honor, by David del Tredici on his birthday weekend, Ode to Music, which was a fantasy transcription of Franz Schubert's An die Musik. And so I should mention the source piece, Franz Schubert. All right, so Beethoven's contemporary, Franz Schubert, lived at the same time. He was much younger. He had a very, very short and tragically short life, and his quotes tend to reflect the sort of the tragic aspect, of his life. But just as we quoted from Beethoven, let's get a little quote from, I think this is a very good quote from Schubert. He says, "The moment is supreme. The moment is supreme." That's it. And a lot of his supreme achievements are called moments musicaux, musical moments. And Schubert is the great composer of moments. Later he said, Schubert, quote from Schubert, "I am composing like a god, as if it simply had to be done as it has been done." And that is certainly true. His musical moments are supreme. His little small inspirations, like his songs, they're perfect. And one of his most beautiful songs is the song which inspired my teacher. It's a song called An die Musik. And Schubert composed, it's a song, the German word for song is Lied. Schubert composed his Lied, An die Musik, which means to music, in March 1817 for solo voice. Text was a poem by his friend Franz von Schubert. And if you want to look it up on YouTube, it's in the catalog system of Schubert's works is called the Deutsch catalog, D for short, so it's D for Deutsch, number 547, written in the key of D major. And it was published in 1827. It's been sung by many people, often at as an encore or in farewell concerts, so it has a kind of a valedictory or leave-taking type of vibe. And the music is very beautiful. I'm not going to sing it for you, but I will read you the text so you get a sense of the feeling of it. And you'll have to pardon my non-native stab at German, but so I'll read it in sort of my broken German, and then I will read the English translation. Okay, so let's go. in sort of fake German. Okay. Du holde Kunst, in wie viel grauen Stunden, wo mich des Lebens wilder Kreis umstrickt. The translation of that, O blessed art, how often in dark hours, when the savage ring of life tightens round me. It's first stanza, first couplet, and then the next three lines, first in German. Hast du mein Herz so warmer Lieb entzünden, hast mich in eine bessere Welt entrückt, in eine bessere Welt entrückt. And the English translation of those three lines is, have you kindled warm love in my heart, have transported me to a better world, transported to a better world. Then the next two lines, the next couplet in German first, then English. Oft hat ein Seufzer deine Harfe entflossen, ein süßer heiliger Akkord von dir. And the English translation of those two lines, often a sigh has escaped from your harp, a sweet sacred harmony of yours. And then the final three lines, den Himmel bessere Seiten mir entschlossen, du holde Kunst, ich danke dir dafür. Du holde Kunst, ich danke dir. And the English translation has opened up the heavens to better times for me. O blessed art, I thank you for that. O blessed art, I thank you for that. And so the repeated phrases, du holde Kunst, O blessed art, or you, thou, blessed art, addressing art in the sort of devotional sense. And this is a very strong, it's not the greatest poem, but it's a very beautiful, touching expression of, again, the German term Kunstreligion, art religion, which is exactly what Beethoven was talking about when Beethoven said music is a higher revelation than all wisdom and philosophy. And Schubert, by choosing this text, was agreeing with Beethoven, both of them agreeing with the idea of Kunstreligion, that there is something in the immediacy of the attention, sonic, complete, non-dual sonic attention, perceptual attention to sound, that if we focus completely our minds on sound without any distraction and without allowing our minds to separate into perceiver and perceived, without allowing our minds to split into two different things, but just staying with the sound, the experience of hearing before it splits into the hearer and what is heard, what is outside, the air vibrations coming into you, and what is inside, how you are experiencing it inside your brain, inside your mind, inside your body. But when there's complete attention, those two things, the outside stimulus and the inner experience, they become one thing if you don't space out, if you don't let yourself go somewhere else. And in order for us to listen that way, in order for us to make that effort, in order to trigger that, the music has to be completely dynamic, completely alive, completely considered in every detail, on the microsecond level. It's really the millisecond, microsecond level of perception. Beethoven and Schubert, they paid attention to sound at its most microscopic level and on its largest level, on every level, because they loved it so much. And they set an example for everyone who's come since then to try to match their level of total microscopic and macroscopic attention to sound. And Beethoven had that attention, Schubert had that attention, Chopin, Liszt, Wagner, the list goes on, up to the greats of our times, like Aaron Copland, David Del Tredici, and their students who are trying to keep their legacies alive. So, what did David, my teacher, do with that? And first, he arranged it for a woodwind quintet, and the Dorian Wind Quintet, which is a great group, Dorian, Dorian. And it was beautiful. It's a beautiful arrangement. It's called The Most Beautiful Song in the World, and I recommend that. But then he listened to it again and played it at the piano again and decided that there was more there, not just a transcription of the original beautiful song, the most beautiful song in the world, An die Musik of Schubert. This is what David said. He said, having written a wind quintet for the Dorians, the Dorian Wind Quintet, upon which they lavished playing of great precision and elegance, I was warmly disposed toward them. So it was no surprise when, in a burst of friendship, I blurted out, "Is there a piece of music you which no dreamed had been written for wind quintet? I will transcribe for your quintet anything that you choose." Right? And he said, after much conversation, the players settled upon Schubert's song An die Musik, a little miracle in 2 verses, which is often the last song sung on the last recital of a distinguished lieder-singer's concluding career. Lieder, we said, is the German word for art songs, and as opposed to folk songs or pop songs. And then David continues in his program note, my dear friend and piano champion, Mark Pelocan, heard this arrangement and posited, David, I think it would also sound well on the piano. He began then to transcribe my transcription, which started me thinking, could this become the basis of a grand piano fantasy? Much as in 1978, I transmuted my chaste acrostic song into a gleaming, grandiose virtuoso Alice. Yes, I decided, it could work, and set to the task quickly and with passion. The acrostic song, I'm editorializing here, is the final beautiful melody from the final Alice, one of his symphonic works. As I said, you can go onto YouTube and listen to a great recording with Barbara Hendricks and conducted by Sir Georg Schulte under the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And he took that theme and then wrote piano fantasy variations on that. So he did the same thing with the Schubert thing. He says, to music is the result. 9 minutes that Franz Schubert might have written had he been enamored of Richard Wagner and at the same time a piano student of Franz Liszt. Okay, because for David, those were also, in addition to Schubert, his great inspirations, Wagner and Liszt. He played piano, he played Liszt's piano music, he played piano in the style of Liszt very heroically, and he composed magnificent orchestral music in the style that descends from Richard Wagner. So this is what my teacher did. He took a piece by a great composer that he loved, he arranged it, he transcribed it, and then he internalized it and created his own version of it, also inspired by his great influences of the past, moving towards the present. And this gets back to my main theme for today, the importance of tradition, mentorship, and discipline, and the daily practice of the composer. Yeah. So you can also, I believe, on YouTube, you can listen to the original. You can listen to the original Schubert song, An die Musik. You can listen to David's woodwind transcription, the most beautiful song in the world for a wind quintet, and you can listen to his piano piece. That his arrangement was from the year 20. The original was 1827. Oh, it says Schubert actually wrote it, what was it, in 1817. And then David transcribed it for winds in 2012 and then recomposed it as a piano fantasy in 2015. And this is what we heard performed by his great friend and piano champion and a friend of mine, Mark Pellegrin, at the Italian Academy at Columbia University last night, March 13th, 2025. All of this in honoring, for me, what David's birthday, which would be March 16th. And so I want to that's who I want to honor today. I want us all to honor the great, now deceased, but until recently living composers. It's, as I tell my students, in life, it's easy to love people when they're dead. It's hard to love them when they're alive, whether it's your friends or your family or anyone. Living people have their quirks and their foibles, and that we always manufacture excuses not to love them enough or well enough, and then sometimes we regret that, and then over idealize them after they're gone. But the important thing is to express love to the living, to those who need it. That's what matters. To love the living. Music is an expression of love. If I'm able to write music, it's because I'm able to feel love. I'm able to feel the feelings of love in sound and try to, my best, to the best extent of my limited human skill and ability, to transcribe it into sound and then to share it with you. And that is an act of love. And if it touches you in any way, positively, and you express that to me, then that is an expression of love. And the resources and the time and the tremendous amount of what little money I spent on trying to realize that, that's also love on my part. So if people can help me defray some of these costs, because I have no other source of funding, by making a goodwill donation, that is so important. I said it in the last time, the patron is the co-creator. I talked last time about the significance of artistic patronage and the ups and downs of that. We talked about the movie The Brutalist, wonderful Academy Award film from this year starring Adrian Brody, which was a portrait of the rocky but ultimately productive relationship between a great artist and a great patron. Great art needs great patronage. Great art needs two levels of support. It needs just love and appreciation from ordinary people who from it touches their heart, and for whom all they can offer is love and support. A deeper level of love and support is teacher and student, when a student actually directly works with the teacher and follows his example and follows his instructions and takes it on faith and pays it forward. And you can be in the audience, you can be a student, you can be an educator, you can talk about it like I'm talking about it right now. You can express love by talk. So I'm also expressing love by talking about it. And if you don't have the ability to be necessarily a student or a teacher of the art that you love, you can be a patron. If you are blessed with monetary skills and monetary resources, you can create beauty with that by working with living artists. And that's so much more, that's real patronage. That's not just giving a tax write-off charitable donation to a museum or performing arts center. That's institutional. That's not impersonal. Love is working with the living artist whose work you love and saying, I, the business person, I, the person with access to capital and wealth, will support you so you can create great work so that we together, I, patron saying I with capital and the artist with the vision and with technique and the craft and the hard work together can create great works which will benefit all humanity, because it requires work on that level to get past dual perception to non-dual perception, to get to the deepest level of sonic attention where there is no separation of perceiver and perceived, of the listener and what is listened to the outside or the inside of sound. The creator, the composer, has got to be very disciplined and practice every day, maintain his skill, counterpoint, harmony, rhythm, all of these things every day, so that she or he can go deep inside and hear the sounds that are only inside of that uniquely that one person, and to try to realize them out into the world. This is what I try to do in my limited way. I hope it goes from my heart and my mind out to you and touches your heart and your mind. And if you are moved at all by that, please contact me. And I check the comments on YouTube and TikTok, and sometimes, I have to work for a living, so I don't always get back to them immediately, but I do try to get back in a timely fashion. Someone commented that this is similar to a hum they hear inside their head, and yes, that is exactly what it is for me. This is a sound that I hear inside my head when I am focused in meditation or under supervised psychedelic therapy, and bringing those two things together, a supervised psychedelic therapy and meditation, bringing those two things together with one's artistic practice, which is what I'm trying to do and which I encourage everyone to do, if you can. So, that's it for today. Praising the great David del Tredici on the eve of his birthday on March 16th, and praising all of our teachers, everyone who's come before us. We build upon tradition, even if our work breaks from tradition completely and sounds completely radical. Underneath it, there is tradition. Underneath everything I write, there is counterpoint, there is harmony, there's rhythm, there is sonata form, variation form, fugue form, movements, exposition, development, recapitulation, coda, variation. It's all in there, even if it seems totally disorienting. Okay. Love to you all. Speak to you soon. And okay. Have a great week. Have a great weekend.